What is your money mindset? Yes, what is the story that you tell yourself about money? That's actually the most important thing to predict your entrepreneurial success. And today I'm going to talk to money coach Debbie Page about why that story is so important, even more important than cash flows, revenue, pricing, and all the other. Because if you don't get real about your story, you're in for some hard times ahead. So take a listen and soak up her great advice. Welcome to today's episode, everyone. We're in for a treat. We are talking with my amazing friend and colleague, Debbie Page. We're going to talk about money mindset and why it's one of the best predictors of your entrepreneurial success, more than anything else that you can do with your spreadsheets and balance sheets. She's a certified money coach, an internationally recognized and award-winning entrepreneur and business coach, and she's an advocate for women's economic independence. That's the fuel that drives all of her work and all of her speaking. Debbie's recognized as one of the leading authorities on cash flow and profitability for women in business, and she guides women essentially to keep more of the money they make. But guys, if you're tuning in, you will want to stay with us because this is a crucial conversation about how to make your business endeavors successful as well. She has achieved, her clients have achieved amazing success, mostly because of her tough love attitude, but also her rabid focus on accountability, on systems and processes to create sustainable and scalable businesses. And she has created and sold 2 businesses of her own. So she knows what she's talking about. Debbie, welcome today. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
I love it. Thanks so much for having me, Maria. I always love a good catch up with you. And anytime I can talk about entrepreneurship, business ownership, money, or mindset, I'm in. So
I know, I love it. And you are my go-to whenever I have questions ranging from pricing to all of it. I mean, Debbie's been doing this for years and she is such an expert at it. So I'm excited to talk today. So I want to get into this thing about money mindset, right? Because it sounds so woo-woo and everyone's like, oh, it really just matters like what I charge and my margins and am I selling enough and sales flow and yada, yada, yada. But really your whole foundation starts at what is the money mindset and what is the script that we tell ourselves that's going to go into how we approach our business. So talk to us a little bit about why that's more important than anything else to entrepreneurial success, more important than all the other like basics you have to have.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell everyone, like, I'm going to get pretty fired up about this because I used to think, right, previous versions of me, very young business owner versions of me thought that if I had the right number of sales calls, that would convert to the right number of clients, that would convert to the right number of money in my bank account. And yes, there is the formula of all that's necessary. But what I had started to see early in my own entrepreneurship journey, as well as with other people too, was that they could be doing all those things correctly. They could have the whole marketing plan. They could have their sales calls. They could have a touch point plan. They could have nailed their pricing and they could still have no money in the bank. Absolutely none. They would sit there and go, I don't know where my money goes. Like, I don't understand. And on top of that, they were racking up debt, right? And so all this starts to create this like really unhealthy place to be. And so I started doing a lot of digging a few years ago and was able to validate some of my own suspicions through other people's work. And the reality is we all come into this world with a money story, and we all start our money story, depending on which research you read, by the age of 7, maybe 12, if you're a little bit of a late bloomer. Your money story has already been imprinted on you. Mm-hmm. It's been imprinted on you by those lovely people who raised you. Now, I'm just going to say, I love my mom and dad, and they did the best they could with what they knew. Nobody had ever educated them on how to have a healthy relationship with money.
No, and we never get that education in school. I mean,
anywhere. And no one ever asks, like, what is your relationship with money? What is your first conscious memory of money? Like all these things. Mm-hmm. And so as I started to do more research and going through my own certification, I recognized that if I could work with an entrepreneur, if I could see the problems happening in their business, I know that they're happening in their personal life. And I'm not your personal financial money coach, but I'm going to tell you, if we can work on this over here, this is also going to get healed up too. And we started taking a look at, what was their money story? What were their first memories of money? And as an example, one of the first women that I took through this program, we were talking about how her dad referenced money. She's an entrepreneur. She owns a design agency here in the United States. And she was talking about how her dad talked to her about money and what her mom's role in the house was and how they engaged with money together. And as we're going through the process, I said, what was your first job? And she was a babysitter like many of us. And she's of our age,
yes.
Right? And I said, all right, do you remember what you charged for babysitting? And she said, it was $1. It was $1 an hour. And I was like, okay. And I said, $1 an hour per kid. And she said, no, it was $1 an hour, no matter how many children.
Yeah.
I said, so you charge $1 per hour if I'm an only child or if I had 4 siblings? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, okay, I get it. You were 13 when you started this. How long did that go on? And she said, until I was 18. Like, I charged $1 an hour. I was like, oh Lordy. And so in that conversation, as we're going through this, one of the fundamental things that she and I have been working on in our business coaching relationship was she was woefully undercharging for her services, woefully undercharging. And when she came out with that, I hit pause for a second and I said, hey, darling, do you see what's been happening here your entire life? From the time you were 12, you were undercharging, and now you're 50 some and you're undercharging. You see what's happened here, right? And so for her, that was a big moment where she was able to go back and go, oh my gosh, I have been hauling this along for my entire life. So then we started to do some deeper work, and we were able to get her through that thing that kept her not charging what she was worth. And that was all the mindset and the relationship with money. But once we got that, now in this year, her revenue is significantly up this year. She has a much more confident demeanor about her when she's talking to her clients about pricing. She's able to give her quotes much more strongly and assertively. And she doesn't back down when somebody goes, gosh, that's expensive, right? Because that happens to us all.
Right.
So you got to have that. You've got to have the healthy relationship and the mindset piece right. Because if you don't, all the rest of it is going to be at odds until you figure that piece out.
Right. Well, and so much of it is like you said, exactly. It's what you were sort of raised with. And this idea of, I think that's where like the abundance scarcity mindset comes from. If you came from a family that was always struggling to figure out where their next dollar was coming from, you might be much more cautious with your investments. You might be holding off on things you should be investing in because they're actually a better use of your dollars to grow your business. Versus if you have an abundance mindset, which could also backfire as well, raising my hand here, is that don't worry, it'll all work itself out. Like, it'll come from somewhere. And then you're like, oh crap, like I'm not going to be able to pay my credit card bill this month. So so much of that are those scripts we learned when we were younger, because it's all we knew. It's just like, when they say you look at your parents as a model of a healthy relationship, right? Same kind of thing and you're sort of inheriting that baggage. And I don't know, this is kind of an offshoot of this question, but I guess speaking in my experience, like I never thought I was going to run my own business. I had no desire to do it. I had cushy corporate jobs. Like my dad worked for the same engineering firm for 30 plus years. Like that was what you did. Right. And so do you find that there's an extra shift you need to do with entrepreneurs who are sort of accidental entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. I'll tell you, Maria, in all the years that I've been a business owner, in all the years now that I've been coaching, in all the speeches I've ever delivered, I've never yet met an entrepreneur / business owner who walked up and said, hi, my name is, and I intentionally became an entrepreneur. For most people, it's just accidental.
I know one person in my whole life that ever did that. That was like, didn't even know what he wanted to do after college, but knew he wanted to own something. He knew he wanted to own a business one day. And I was like, how does that work?
Right, because what usually happens is, especially among women, we either see a problem that we know we can solve, and so we hang out our shingle and we start doing that thing, or an opportunity is presented and we go, I could do that, right? I could totally do that. And I could make a living doing something that I love.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I find really fascinating, though, is that the entrepreneurial mindset and the way that we handle money in our personal lives are so intertwined, so intertwined.
Totally.
And, when I think about,
I could have a whole therapy session with you about like, I mean, it's ridiculous how parallel it is. Yeah.
It is, right? Okay, so think about this. Think about if we're talking about the scripts and the tapes that we grow up with. So it can show up like this, and this is the sneaky part. So how many times we hear the story of the guy that wins the lottery, and statistically they say in 2 years he's blown through it, right? Think about that in your own business life. When you get a big check, you land a big deal. What do you do with the money? This is what it's like, folks. This is, when you get a new tube of toothpaste, and I have to go get one today, so this is on my mind right now, and you're just free and easy with that toothpaste, right? It just full on across the brush. Some hits the sink. You don't care. I'm scooping it, like I'm putting more back on, whatever. But when you get down to the end, how like conservative
That's
are
like
you?
face cream for me. Like
Yes.
you get that new jar of face cream and the expensive stuff, and you're like, and then you're scraping the lid by the end.
Like, oh my gosh, I must preserve this. It's the same thing with money, right? So if you know one of your habits is when I get a lot of money, it goes away. Somewhere in your past is a script that says, somewhere in your life, somebody said, easy come, easy go. You'll never have enough, whatever those little isms are in your family. You get it in, out it goes. I've worked with people, Maria, who had events happen to them in their life where they were so terrified when they lost money, some big amount of money, literally overnight it was gone, that when they would get another large sum of money many years later, they would spend all of it because they were afraid that they were going to lose it again. But if they could spend it on stuff and things, then they didn't feel that they had lost it. But now they're in this cycle again, right? So now you start interrupting that, and we can have tools and ways that we intercept that and begin reprogramming. But there is so much that happens as an entrepreneur. We're not trained how to run our businesses. We start our businesses because we have a passion, like I said, or we have a purpose, or we can fix a problem, but we don't take the time to learn how to run those businesses. And that also comes down to, what is our relationship with the money in our business? How do we feel about it? Do we, how are we feeling about our pricing? Do you make it easy for your customers to work with you? Do you, as an individual, do you carry money, cash, cold hard cash? My girlfriends laugh at me still to this day, because anytime we go somewhere, we were at an event recently, and it was a cash only bar, right? So you go early to mix and mingle, get your glass of wine. It was cash only bar, didn't have a swiper or anything. And 3 of my girlfriends came up to me and they were like, we know you've got cash on you right now, so can we take a loan, right?
Oh, it's so true.
But money has energy, and how we treat it and how we talk about it. I think as business owners, not being afraid of it and having some kind of, what the industry calls a mindful money practice. And the other piece is giving your money a job. Like all your money should not be commingled. It does not need to hang out in the same house, right? Your money needs its own accounts to do the things that it's supposed to do, including PS pay you. Because if it's all commingled in one thing, you're not clear about what it's supposed to do, and neither is your money, which is why so many entrepreneurs get in trouble with not paying their taxes, quarterly estimates. And now they arrive at the end of the year and they're like, oh God, I owe $10,000 and I don't have it.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. So what are some of the things people can do? I mean, I know there's a wide variety of issues they might have, but what can be like 1 or 2 things where people go, okay, I recognize I have X problem with money. I spend too much. I don't spend enough. I don't know how much I have. I'm like feast or famine. Where can they start? What are a couple things they can start to help improve the health of their relationship with money?
Yeah. So I believe very much that one of the reasons that people fail at many things is that they try and take on too much of whatever it is all at once, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is like when I meet somebody who's behind in their bookkeeping in their business, or we're working on the intake form and they're still doing their own books and they haven't reconciled their accounts in like 6 months. And I say, all right, so we need to set a goal. And like, all right, I'm going to get my QuickBooks up to date by Friday. Like, is that really reasonable? Can you really do that? Because what you just told me else you had going on, I'm guessing that you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Right, right.
And it's the same kind of thing with this money, is that we say, you know, a business owner might have $25,000 worth of debt, right? And they might say, that's it, I'm going to get out of debt. Okay, that's a great, you know, as God is my witness.
Yeah, exactly.
To do this. But we have to create, to your question, small and significant steps to do that. So again, we have to break these things down.
Right.
So one of the first things that, you know, I'll listen for with somebody is ask yourself how you refer to money. Like, how do you talk about it? Do you talk about things as expensive and cheap? Do you talk about not having enough or wanting more? And then starting to figure out what is some small shifts in language that you could make, right? Mm-hmm. So things aren't expensive. It's just the cost of what they are, right? Mm-hmm. We're the ones that put the label on it, and we're the ones who are artificially holding ourselves back.
Right. We assign the value because it's whatever value we perceive that money is going to pay for, right?
Exactly. Or how we perceive our worth to what that service is. So somebody might say to me, God, Debbie, like, your coaching is really expensive. I don't know that. All I know is that these are the rates for coaching. And that to me says more about the value of the individual and how they see themselves, and investing in themselves. And I'm sure you see this in your business too, right? The people needing to invest in themselves, but they'll say, gosh, you know, Maria, that package, it's really expensive.
Right.
But it's not.
Right. Well, it's taking the long view, right? It's okay, so you're not going to spend this money with Debbie or Maria at this time, but then how much money are you going to lose or overspend in the future as a result of not kind of taking that step back? It's true of money management. It's true of brand strategy. It's true of all of that, is that we think so short term of like, I just don't want that money to go out the door because I might not see the ROI on it for a while.
Yeah. And
but the longer you wait, that would be like someone going, I don't really want to go to college because that's like 4 years until I actually get value out of that degree. Well, it's a long game, right? So
you need to do it. And so what I would say to anybody watching is, you know, a small and significant step. So when you know that you have what a thing is around money that you want to work on. So for everyone watching, you know, whatever your thing is right now, find your thing. And we start with, where are you now? Like, what is your belief, your habit, right? My habit might be, I overspend needlessly on programs that I never, ever complete.
Yes.
I probably have $20,000 worth of incomplete programs stuck somewhere in my computer or on the internet that I have access to. And I keep spending like these little bits of money because I don't want to write the bigger check. So they might say, I compulsively spend on things I don't use, whether it's personal or professional.
Right.
And so then I would say, where do you want to be then? If you compulsively spend right now, where do you want to be? And so we'll work on languaging around that. But somebody might say, I want to be measured with my spending in a way that will serve me personally and professionally at my highest level, right? So we do some little mantra work, some phrasing in there. And I'll say, all right, so to get from here to here, what's the first thing you could do? You know, so now we hang out with this idea. What's the first thing we do?
And they're like, I don't know, you tell me, right?
Exactly. You know? So it's like, let's just kind of start thinking about it. Like, what is one thing you could do from being impulsive? Like, so somebody's first step might be, let's get clear on what I really need to invest in my business right now. And maybe when we list all that out, the second step is, let's go back and review what you've already invested in that you haven't completed, to see if the answer, the solution, is somewhere in there. So we identify what it is we need. We see if we already have it. And then maybe the third step is, we put together a spending plan or a budget, a line item to say, every year I allocate $6,000, $10,000, whatever it is, to this category. Maybe it's marketing, right? I'm going to allocate $10,000 a year to small business marketing. Great. Now, how are we going to break that out? Well, we're going to break that out. We're going to do 2/3 of it consulting with somebody like Maria in some capacity. And 1/3 is going to be in maybe some online advertising. I don't know what people's businesses are. We're kind of breaking it out.
Right.
But we'll have to start with, where are you? Where do you want to be? And what are the small things you can do along the way? And you don't have to do them sequentially. Like you might hang out with step 1 for a month before you can go to step 2. But if you can break it down, if you can start to catch yourself in the compulsive spending category, right? And I will say this, there is a psychological component to this, that people who have addictive behaviors and compulsive tendencies, it will trickle into your money and your money habits, personally and professionally.
Yes.
And so being mindful of that and being aware of it are really significant. So one of my things I knew in going through this program, part of it, what was really cool, was I got to be the student as well as, the practitioner. And in working with my mentor in the program, I had a huge event happen in my business, in a business that I had previously owned with my ex-husband. And there was a day that I had logged in online to look at a particular balance on an account that I hadn't paid a lot of attention to. And on that particular day, I found that the balance on that account was essentially 0. And I threw up. Like, I was physically sick. I was scared. I was angry, like any emotion that you could have.
Right.
And I spent the next several years. And so this is the mindset shift. I was doing a mindful money practice, meaning logging in and looking at my balance every day, because I was terrified, even though now we're divorced and nobody else has access to my accounts. I was terrified that one day I was going to wake up and all that money was going to be gone again.
Right.
Terrified.
Right. It's traumatic.
It is traumatic. And if money has energy, right, then that fear that I had around money was the first thing that was happening for me anytime I spoke in my own business about money, whenever I thought about it. So I did a lot of deep work the last couple of years around that, and everything has changed. Everything has changed in terms of how money wants to get into my life. And folks, it wasn't that things sucked for me financially. Like, I was working hard and things were good. But when I had that, oh God, like, that's what I've been doing this whole time. What would happen? What would happen if I worked on this? What little gate could I open that was going to shift everything? And over the last 2 years, everything has absolutely shifted. Money is easy to come by. Money is easy to attract, as the hipster kids would say. And again, if left brain linear spreadsheet loving me can speak to this and can demonstrate that it can be done myself and with my clients, I am confident that every single person out there watching, if you want to do the work, this can happen for you.
Right. Well, and I think that's why this is so important. Like, this is not a video about how to price your products or how to balance your books or how to whatever. It's got to be more fundamental than that. And so what I love about what you're saying is that we can't take that for granted. We can't just assume that's just one element of our business, that, well, the sales and revenue will take care of that. Marketing will take care of that. Like, as long as I'm spending properly, that'll take care of that. We have to address the elephant in the room and say, okay, we need to look at this and see, is our mindset with money serving us or hurting us?
Yes, exactly. And that might, for some of you, that might be having a money mantra, right? Something that you say every day. Again, my girlfriends laugh because every day at 5:05, which is my signal that I need to wrap up my day at my desk. But there is an alarm that goes off on my phone, and the title of the alarm is, I am grateful for all the money around me today. And it's just this conscious moment where I stop, I think about it, And I'm not saying how much I earn today, how much I attract today. I'm just recognizing the money is all around me. Money is all around every single one of you who are participating and watching this. And the more you can get connected to that, and especially stay in a place of gratitude, and I get it, folks, sometimes it does not feel like it is going to be easy to be grateful because you're looking at the bank account going, nice try, lady. And it works. It works. And so if we think about running our businesses as entrepreneurs, I think that the visual I always have is success is like those little combination locks we used to have on our lockers in junior high, remember? And if you have all the right numbers, but they're not in the right order, it'll never open. And if you are just one number off, but have two of them correct, it still won't open. And that's, I think, the piece that is missing for so many people. I think that a vast majority have some pretty good strategy. I think that execution and implementation probably can
Not
use
so much. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I believe that, you know, a lot of people have really good ideas that they think are processes, but they're not documented. So they're more just those really good ideas that they intend to do, right? So those are two numbers in the combination lock. And they're close, but they're not quite there. And then the third number, because it was always those three numbers on that lock, the third number has to do with your mindset.
Right.
And so even if you spend all your time, and this is where a lot of people make a lot of big investments, is in, you know, the strategy of their business, a little more in the execution, you know, into the process side, but they're not attending to the mindset part. Right. That's why the struggle is so real, because that piece has not been attended to.
Well, and I think what's important here is that there's so many gurus out there just talking about the mindset piece, and why your work is so effective is because you are very left brain. You are very process oriented. So it's not like you can just wish your way into $1 million in your bank account. That's, you know, love the secret, but it's about, what is that intention? What is that mindset? Focus your efforts on, because now you're focused. Now you can start thinking about action steps to take to achieve that. But then you have to take that action. So
all the wishing and hoping in the world isn't going to do anything. And I can put as many pretty pictures of gorgeous houses on the beach on my vision board and my dream board as I want. But if I'm not working the hustle muscle, I'm never going to get it.
Right.
Nobody does.
Right. And that's the piece. You've got to marry the mindset with the execution, with the action. Because if it were that easy, we'd all be millionaires. So
rolling in the cheddar. Like, and we're not, you know, and we're not. And so if you think about it too, you know, we make most of our business decisions, you know, with this part of our brain, right? So we make this with the very conscious parts of our brain. We decide who we're going to follow up with, who we're going to call, how we're going to do a content strategy, what we're going to put on our website, what we're going to write in our blog. All this is up here. But it is subconscious, and you know more about the brain than the average human being does. But the subconscious is running the show, people. And so if the subconscious is running the show, it is also running the show when it comes to your money. And so if you're having stinking thinking about your money up here, the subconscious is holding on to all that. And it's like, oh, okay. All right, cool. I can make more of that happen. Thanks for the input, right?
Yeah.
So we have to be aware of what our thoughts are related to the actions in particular when it comes to our money.
Well, that is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. We are going to have all the links to get in touch with you down below. I just want to give you one last opportunity to share one piece of advice or gem that someone watching this who's jazzed, they're ready to go, they're ready to do something. What's one step they can take today, or one piece of advice you have for them that you want them to remember going forward?
Yeah, I would just say get really clear on what your money story is. You know, take some time to think back, go into that way back time machine and start thinking about, what were my first earliest memories of money? Where did I first touch money? Who gave it to me? What were they saying about it? What did I see about it? And start to get connected. I think it sounds daunting, but a fun exercise actually to do to this point is to create a money biography. So
Mm-hmm.
just take a little bit of time and go back and ask yourself, when do I first remember money? Was it 2? Was it 3? Was it 4? 4 is when I have my first conscious thought of money, and write it down. What was it? No judgment, just what was
Mm-hmm.
it? What did you see? What do you remember?
Yeah.
And then year by year, start to build that. And as you build it, you're going to start to see patterns come up for yourself. But if you can create your money biography,
Yeah.
it's going to tell you a lot of what's happening for you in your personal finances as well as your business.
You know what's crazy about that is I remember when I was little, I was like 5, 6, 7, and I would save all my spare change in the little boxes that my costume jewelry came in. And I would write the amount, I would count it up, and I would write the amount on the inside. I wish I still had those boxes somewhere, and I would store them. And that was like my little bank account that I had. And I still remember that to this day. It's
That's
crazy.
so fun.
So yeah, so it's a fun exercise. It's not, hopefully it's not, totally painful for you, but for some people it might be, right?
And I would say to that, give yourself some grace.
Right.
Don't judge, because remember, little you was only doing the best he or she could with what she knew at that time.
Right.
And so now bigger you has an opportunity to go back and work with little you and to bring some of those things through now in a way that's going to serve you a whole lot better. But it sounds daunting, but it's actually quite fun, right? Write a money biography.
I love it. I love it so much. Debbie, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And folks, if you know other people who would benefit from this video, please share it. Please like it. And until next time, have fun being irresistible. Take care.
Thanks.